All right, all right. Welcome to Sessions with Sam. I'm glad you're here. Hey, look who's back. Mr. Rob Sutter joining us as mod. Rob, great to have you back. Can you hear me okay? Everybody hear me okay? All right. Let's see here. Yep, we got to welcome everyone from Rob Sutter. So listen, today we're doing something a little different. I'm actually streaming to our normal. All right, great to be here. Good. He can hear me. I'm actually streaming to our normal what are we talking? Twitter? Twitch. I'm also streaming to our YouTube channel. I'm streaming to my Twitter, and I'm also going to Facebook just for giggles and grins. So wherever you are, glad to have you here, and excited to have you here. Listen, we're going to be talking about a lot of cool things today, but specifically AWS's new release of HTTP APIs direct integrations. We were originally planned to talk about governance today, but we've shifted that 1 week. So we are continuing that. Don't worry. We're coming back around to that. If you were watching that series, we'll be covering that as well. But the HTTP APIs direct integrations are brand new. So we wanted to kind of take some time and walk through those. I've had a lot of questions about them, how they work, why would I use them? And I also put out a blog called Building Storage First Integrations. And I'll go ahead and post that link here real quick if I can. There we go. And you can take a look at that. And that talks about, what does it mean to use these direct integrations and to get our data into persistent, a type of persistent storage before we process data. So this is kind of a mindset change when we talk about HTTP APIs and the direct integrations. With that, let's get started. Let's kind of take a look at what we're doing. So like I said, we're going to talk about using direct integrations in SAM. But first, I want to show how to do it in the console. And there's a reason for that. So let me get my face out of here so you can actually see the console here. And we'll go with that. Let me get this out of the way. All right. And Rob, my man Rob's out there. He's answering questions. He's going to do a great job, and I'm going to be watching as well. So, okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to build a direct integration. And the reason we're going to do that is so you can kind of see what it looks like in the console, but it also helps us when we move to SAM. And I'll show you. And I kind of tweeted about this earlier, but this is a little trick when we're building this. So first of all, I already built some of it. We're not going to show building all of it because it kind of goes outside of scope. But for instance, we're going to build an SQS or simple queue service integration. And I've already built my queue. And this queue literally is all the defaults. It has I didn't open up any kind of permissions to it. It's just a simple queue, and that's it. And what I need from this is I'm going to need the queue URL. And so I've got that right there. The next thing I've done is I've built my role. Now, what this role is for, this is an identity and access management role. And this role is what's going to allow API Gateway to be able to work against SQS because, and I talk about this all the time, we always want least privileges. We don't open anything up. We only open up the bare minimum of what we need to get our job done because security is super, super important, right? Great. I'm glad you liked the post. H86. Excellent. I'm glad that helped. I'm passionate about storage first integration. So, all right. Who has their dad, Dr. Pepper? All right. I've got mine. All right. So there's my server list for everyone. All right. So let's take a look here. Now, this is the role that we're using. This is a very simple role. All I'm doing is I'm allowing it to send messages, just SQS send message, and I'm tying it down to the specific resource, the ARN of that queue. So I'm not just saying, we see a lot of people say, just give full access to any queue or allow them to do anything to any queue. But no, I'm limiting it to just that person gets banned. No SQ, and I know who you are, Dr. Pepper Yucky, that they're out the door. So I'm limited it to just this queue. So I've built this resource. Now I'm doing this and I'm adding it to my API gateway. Let's look at the policy summary here. And I'm going to go and I want to look at my trust policy real quick. Here it is, trust relationship. In my trust relationship, what I'm saying is API gateway, the service API gateway can assume this role. So it's that simple. I'm saying API Gateway can assume the role, and then it has access to send messages to the SQS queue. That's it. All right. Okay, good. All right. So we had, so I'm gonna put this out there. Here we go, back to my messages here. Let's see what other questions we got coming in. All right, we've got a lot of haze and stuff coming in. Great, excellent. We had this come up. I'm showing your face because I know who you are there. All righty. And any other questions so far? All right. So let's go ahead and build the integration so you can actually see what we've got going on. So I'm inside of API Gateway, and I'm going to go over and I'm going to create an API. Now, this is Sessions with Sam. If you're just joining, you didn't hear me explain earlier, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. This is Sessions with Sam. You should be doing this in SAM. Well, yes, and we will, but we want to get some stuff first. So I'm going to show you this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do build on the HTTP API. Now, here's how I approach it. You don't have to do it this way. I don't add any integrations or anything when I first build it. I just get it built and then I go back and do it. So literally, I'm just going to say Sessions with Sam example. Okay, that's the name of my API, and I'm going to review and create it. Okay, so it's just saying, hey, here's your name. You've got no routes. You've got, we're going to create a default stage automatically, but there's nothing else. There's no integrations or anything. I'm okay with that. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. And you can see, and hey, Rob, can you tell me, is that text big enough? Can y'all see it okay? Anybody have any issues with that? And I'll watch for responses as I'm going. All right, so now we've got our API gateway kind of built here. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead into our integrations, and we're going to, and I have no integrations here, and we're going to add an integration. Okay, so I'm going to click create. And I'm not going to worry about a route. I'm just going to choose my integration. And now you can see, boy, I have all these different things I can add. I have my step functions, my kinesis, my app config, my simple queue, which we're going to do, event bridge, and then a private resource for a private integration, HTTP URI, so I want a proxy URI, and then the Lambda proxy as well. So I have a lot of different options when I'm doing this. All right, so I'm getting a one bigger from Rob here. So let's see if we can blow that up one bigger. There we go. I am now blind, but that's okay. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and choose the integration I want, which is simple queue. Then I have to choose the integration action. And SQS, this is the reason I chose this one, this has several. This is one of the few two-way integrations that we have at the moment. And so you can send message, receive message, delete message, and purge queue. And I sent a tweet out on this, and I kind of said, thinking out loud, I could actually build a queue system for apps that maybe aren't hosted in AWS or hosted in my, my mom's closet on a PC or something like that. If I had a bunch of apps that needed to be able to do queuing, I could do this because I could send a message in, another app could pull it with the receive message, and then once they've done the action, they could then delete that. So, okay. Do I have Rob Sutter? We got a question for you there. I'll let you throw an answer on that. But yes, we have a question around the step function stuff. So back to this, then I could then delete the message saying it's been handled, and then I could even purge the queue. So this is a really quick way of making a queue system between maybe disparate apps that aren't all in the same cloud, in the same data center, or whatever. So, all right. So we're going to go ahead and choose send message for the moment. And I'm trying to click on the video screen here. There we go. And now if I go down here, it's going to have several things, okay? It's going to ask me, what is the queue URL of my SQS? So we're actually proxying that queue URL, all right? But this is going to be a signed integration, meaning it's going to have the rights based on that role. That's going to go with it, and it's going to be signed, and the SQS queue is going to know that coming in. Okay, in my message body, now here's what I'm doing, okay? This is the message to send. Now I can say, this is my message. And then every message I would send is, this is my message, right? Okay, but instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, you'll find what you need in the request.body.message body. Oh, spelling's bad here, okay? Message body, just like that. So what it's going to do then, because I put the $sign in there, it's going to say, okay, I'll look there for this integration. I'll look to see as the request comes in, HTTP will take they'll look at request body and then a parameter called message body, and it'll take that data and pass it through. So, all righty, I just had a phone call come in. That was weird. Thought I had everything quieted. All right, the last thing we need is an invocation role, and this is the role that I used, that I built in the identity and access management that we talked about earlier. Okay, so there, that's enough to get an SQS direct integration going, right? Right, now I can add descriptions, things like that. Now I want to take you over to the documentation real quick, because in the documentation, oh, that's a little teeny. Let's blow that up a little bit. In the documentation, we're going to go down to SQS. Here's the SQS SIN. It's going to say you are required to pass a queue URL and a message body. These two are required. However, you can also pass delay seconds, message attributes, message deduplication, group ID, different things like that. So you have this flexibility. So how do we set that up in the console? Well, if we go back to the console and we scroll down, we've got this advanced settings. And you start to see delay seconds, message attributes, message dedupe ID, different things like that. So we're not going to set in all this stuff right now, but you have the ability to add these extra items coming into SQS. So it's really important to understand, and I'm going to post this in here in the chat here, the I don't have, I'll grab this page. Actually, I'll just grab it from here. Let's post this link in here, because this is a really helpful link when you're looking at, all right, what is required, what can I pass, this is document to look at that, and it documents each one of these, the receive, the delete, all the way down throughout all of them. Okay, so let's go back to our API gateway. All right, so I've set this up, and I'm going to go ahead and create it. Okay, so now I have this integration. So what am I going to do with it? So let's go to routes. Okay, I'm going to make this a little smaller so you can see it. So now we're going to create a route, and I'm happy to say, look, it's got to be a post, because I know I'm posting stuff to it, because we always try to do minimum available access. I could do any here and say, hey, handle anything, but really the only thing I want are posts. So I'm going to set this to post. I'm going to leave it on the root, okay, like this, and then I'm going to hit create. Now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and attach the integration that we built. So if I go here and I drop down, and I'm going to attach that, and voila. We've just built a direct integration from HTTP API to SQS. All right, and I show in the example of show I'll show you how to go in and test all this. We're not going to take that time at the moment, but we will come back to this if we have time at the end, because I want to show a couple other things. Now, one thing that I want to talk about, and one thing that this makes this really huge and really cool is, you may be asking, well, Eric, there was already, you had a queue URL, and that queue URL we can make publicly accessible. Right, and so does it make sense to actually wrap an HTTP API around it? Yes, if you want authentication, if your authorization on your requests, right? So with this, I can enable an authorization where I can use JWT tokens, JWT authorization, or OAuth authorization to authorize my users coming in. So now I can expose an SQS queue without having to limit it to IP or an account. Instead, I can say, hey, it's based on the user coming in, and then they can use that. So gives you a lot of flexibility there. All right, so I'm gonna take a moment and see if we have any questions coming in. Someone from VSC here. We need to update for, okay, so a lot of step functions going on. So I'm gonna let Rob handle that. Okay, so let's jump over to the next part of this. Here's why I built it in the console first, right? In the console, you have this wonderful ability to say export. And then I'm going to go here. I'm going to say, what do I want to export? I can do the latest configuration. And this means latest configurations, if I don't have default deployment, then they would be different. But the default and latest are the same because my default is auto-deployed. So I'm just going to grab the default stage. And I wanted to include the API gateway extensions. This is going to export an open API template for my API. And open API is extensible in that we can add more things to it. One of the things we've added is the API gateway extensions. This is how you're going to handle roles, security, directing it to different integrations like the SQS we just built. So we're not going to do JSON because, YAML. Okay, so I'm going to go to YAML, and now I'm going to go ahead and download this. So once I've downloaded that, you won't see this probably, so let me just go to the Finder real quick here, and I'm going to grab that documentation here. Okay, sorry, bear with me. All right, so I'm going to open with, we'll just open it in code, Visual Studio Code, because I want to look at this. All right, so here is, pull this over, and don't worry, I'll blow it up. Okay, here is the template. Okay, so this is an open API template. You may be looking, well, that kind of looks like, well, that's YAML, and that looks like stuff that we can do within SAM. You're absolutely right. Okay, if you're doing APIs, let me just pause for a moment here. If you're doing APIs, I heavily encourage you to become familiar with the Open API spec, right, and the Open API extensions that Amazon puts on these. So this is really helpful. All right. So let's take a look at this. So what we're basically doing, this is a very simple one, is we're saying, okay, we've got it's Open API. Here's the name of our API, and then here's the address that server is at. Okay, but here's what we want. So here's the path. We're saying on the root there's a post, and the responses are going to be just whatever's passed back there or the default. The description is the default response for the post. Okay, I can modify this if I want in the Open API if I need to change some of that. But then I'm going to do the Amazon API Gateway integration, and I'm using the SQS send message. And I'm going to backtrack on that. At the moment with the HTTP API stuff, we can't modify the outputs yet. Okay, so just to throw that out there. So you kind of it's passing back through whatever comes through. All right, so then here's where we get this Amazon API integration. This is an Amazon extension that we were talking about earlier. And this is where you start passing in the information. So the first thing I'm going to say, what is the subtype? Well, this is an SQS send message, which that matches, if we go back to our doc, that matches what it says here. So you can just say SQS send message, then that's going to be the same thing that's in here. Then here's the credentials. The credentials are the role that I can assume. And then the request parameters. And here's where I passed in that data. I said, grab that, and only the ones that I added. Now, if I'd have added the other the advanced ones, then I can do that. So, all right. So I'm going to read. We got a question here real quick. It says, EJ, Josh Reader here might have missed this, but I assume if the message successfully makes the queue, yes, that is correct. Yeah. So that's the question. When you make so what you're going to get back with an SQS, and I should have time to show this, but what you're going to get back is actually XML, because that's what SQS kicks out. And it's going to kick out I think it's the message ID and different things like that. So absolutely, you will get that coming back. So, all righty. Rob, am I missing anything else? Okay, looks like you're just having the conversation on step functions. So that's great. All right. So, but here's a couple things. Now, also, it's a type AWS proxy connection type internet. And then this is the version of the Amazon export. So you want to leave that in there. Okay. So what I've got here is I've got the ability to build an API gateway with a direct AWS service connection, but they're hard coded, right? So QURL is always got to be that queue. Credentials is always that queue. Well, that's not the way we do it in SAM. So let's flip over to SAM and see what we can do. Okay, so I'm going to take you to this right here is the blog example. So I had a blog example that I put out, and this is not it. Let me grab it real quick. And this is huge, so I feel like I'm in the computer reading it. So bear with me here. All right. So here's a template for what we just built. Okay, so let me bring this back down and let's walk through this. Okay, so I have my HTTP API, and no, this is not the right template. Bear with me, folks. I'm like, that didn't look right. We don't want the logging template. We want the blog example template. All right, there we go. Now we can do that. Okay, so in this template, I'm creating an HTTP API. And all I'm doing is giving it, here's the type and the properties. And then I'm saying for the rest of the definition of this API, we're going to go to Open API. And I'm going to import or include on a transform. I'm going to do an include, and I'm going to pull in API, the API.yaml page. All right. Then I also am creating that role that we created inside of identity access management. Instead of doing it there, I'm actually creating it here. And you can see I've got the same send message, but instead this time I'm saying send message and grab the arm that I made on the queue, which the queue is right here at the top. And then the last thing I'm doing is I'm actually triggering a Lambda to do some work off that queue. So I can add this, that's optional. And then I create the output so we can read that endpoint. So I'm creating two things. I'm creating a queue, and I'm creating an API gateway, and I'm creating the role, and I'm creating the Lambda. But the second thing is, how do I pull those into the API.yaml, right? So here's that template that we just exported, but I've changed it a little bit, right? So still the same thing on the root. I'm doing a post. Here's my responses. I changed the response just a little bit, but that's okay. Under my integration for credentials, instead of hard coding that credential, I'm going to do a function get at. Now you may know the intrinsic functions here, and you may be saying, "Hey, Eric, you could use just bang get at." That's the short form of using it in YAML. You're right, but when we're doing a transform and an include, those don't always work. So when you're pulling a file in through an include, use the long form. So I'm using the actual function get out with the array, and I'm saying grab the my HTTP API role, which is the role from here that we created, right there. Okay. So then the second thing I'm doing is then I'm going to say, and then I'm going to request parameters, and here's the data I'm passing in, and the queue URL is ref my queue. Again, that's the long form, but that looks a lot like the short form. And there you go. So it's the same template, but I've done it inside of SAM, and actually open API, and then the SAM template pulls that in using the API, the transform. All right, so that's a simple working example. And on the sessions with Sam, and I'll post the repo in here, we actually have that blog example if you want to see it. So you can do that and pull it and do examples. But I want to take this a step farther, okay? So we also have some questions. All right, that's great. So that's the SQS. So how do I build some of the other ones? So I went through and I built another template. Let me close these out so I don't keep opening the same ones, okay? So this template, let's talk through what it's going to build real quick here. So first of all, it's going to build our queue because we're still going to go to SQS. Then it's going to build a stream. This is a Kinesis stream. This is just a single shard stream, keeping it real simple. I could make this obviously much more robust if I need to, but that's 1,000 requests per second right there. All right. So then I'm going to build it in my HTTP API, like I said, with the role. And now here, and I'm kind of giving myself away here, the policy is different here because I'm adding multiple things. Here's that API direct here. So we're going to add that into the SQS, but I'm also have another policy that's direct to event bridge. Okay. And it's going to be able to put events, and it's going to hit the specific resource. And the resource I'm hitting is actually the default bus. And then I've got another one for Kinesis. So I'm making 3 different roles. Now I could have put all these in one policy and said API gateway can do this and this and this, and then the resource is. But by dividing these out, by separating these out, I have it. I have the ability to, it's much more readable, right? It's much more granular. All right, so we got a couple of questions coming in. Let me stop here real quick here. All right, is it possible to build more complex message like VTL? Not at the moment, no. Currently, this is the extent of the integration at the moment. So if you need to do more complex, you need to transform that stuff coming in and transform the stuff going out, we still need to use VTL. So that should answer this question as well. All right, any other question? All right. Okay, so jumping back down here. So let's go over here. So again, I talked about breaking those out granular because those are very readable. And then I have my triggered Lambda. Now my Lambda, it has a trigger for each thing being posted in. So I'm triggering it off the SQS, I'm triggering it off my event bridge, and I'm triggering it off my Kinesis stream. So, I'm able to trigger the same Lambda, and all my Lambda is going to do, and you've seen this before if you've watched this show at all, is under the source, I'm just going to literally all I'm doing is writing stuff out to the log. Okay, so let's jump back into this and see what we've got going on here. All right, so now that we've done that, let's look at the API YAML for that. Okay, so I've changed up our order just a bit. Okay, so I'm using, now I've got a SQS path. So the path, so I would have to hit the API root / SQS as a post, and then it would integrate. We've already talked about this. But I've also done another one where I've said, okay, I'm going to do EB. That's Event Bridge. That's short Eric term for Event Bridge. And it's going to be a post. And now you can see it looks much the same credentials because I use that same role. However, I need to pass a detail. Now, notice for Event Bridge, I can say, hey, look to the request.body.detail for my detail here. But the detail type, I'm just going to pass in a string. And these are things to help filter on the rules after the fact. And then the source. So you can also hard code some of these in. If you say, look, it's going to be the same no matter what. And I don't want to push that to my client and make my client decide what detail type is and source is. I just want them to send the body, right? So you can do that. And then the same with Kinesis here. I'm going out and I'm saying, here it is. And for my partition key, I'm doing a unique partition key. And again, I'm just saying my partition. And then I'm pulling in the stream. So what I've effectively done here is I've built an API that has three different integrations, and I can show you that API here real quick. DI all integrations. Let's get rid of this, and you can see under. Oh, I need that side here. Let's go to routes. So you can see here I've got these routes for each one of these. And I'm able to post to EB, Kinesis, or SQS, and I get the different response based on that. All right, we got a few minutes. I'm going to jump over to questions here real quick. This is my first time on Twitch. I got it because I got to know AWS Service Application Model, containers from the couch. Excellent. Is dedicated to all things container. Yes. Howdy partner. Highly. Oh, okay. So that's all right. Dedicated to, yes, we do different. So Rob already answered the question there, but we do different streams, containers and couch. Awesome over there. Brent and those guys are doing a great job. And this is serverless from the sofa. What? I just said that? Yeah. Let's get that out there. Pound serverless from the sofa, also known as Pound Sessions with Sam. What? All right. So, all right. So let's take a look here. Let's see if we've got a few moments to actually test this so you can see it in action. Let me pull this over here real quick. All right. So we're going to use Postman. I will see if the Postman will blow up. All right. So you can see here, I'm going to hit, and I'm going to verify. I was messing around just a minute ago, so I want to verify my route to this. So to do that, I can just go to my API, and it'll show the actual invoke URL. So I'm going to grab the invoke URL. Let's go back to Postman. And for this one, we should be, let's go, this is my SQS one, so we're going to go here, and we're actually going to go forward to SQS. Now, in my body, let's look at that real quick. In my body, I'm actually passing message body because that's all I got to pass, right? So let's do a send. And there you go. There is my XML coming back. So let's do a post to, this is going to hit Event Bridge. So we can hit this. So in the body, let's see, we're passing detail. My name is Eric. I can change that in any way, shape, or form I want. And there you go. I get the event ID back. Failed entry count is 0. We always like failed entry count to be 0. That's excellent. All right, and finally, let's go here to, this is the Kinesis one, and we push this, and there you go. There's my sequence number and my shard ID. And if I had a lambda, if I could bring up a logs and show the lambda function on that, you would see these hitting. Let's see, we got just 2 minutes. Let's see how fast Eric can type. All right, so we go over here. Now here's a really helpful thing. All right, so we're going to go over and we're going to say new terminal. Okay, and I'm going to say SAM logs, and I'm going to say, what is it, stack name. So I'm going to give it the stack name. And to get that stack name real quick, I'm just going to go into my config toml file real quick here because I can say what I called it, di all, right? So I'm going to say di-all, and then I'm going to say in or dash name is going to be my function name, and I of course can't remember the function name. So this is probably helpful if you use names you remember. So here, so let's go back there, and we're going to pass this, And then I'm going to tail this. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter. And now there's my logs. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back over to Postman, and I'm going to send some more stuff. We'll send some on each one. And then we'll drop back over to the logs file, and you'll see that start scrolling in just a minute. It pings about every 30 seconds. There it goes. You may not have seen it. I saw it, but it did scroll. It all looks the same. So, but this is a great way for testing these, right? You can also use the SLS tools that Theodo put out. Ben Ellerby's team put this out. There's a really cool one that integrates this as well. So, all right, so let's take a look. We have just, we're right at time, but I'll see if I can answer any questions real quick here. Okay, all righty, fair. I like this. I like this a lot. Okay, yes, I like that. All righty. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions regarding this. Yes, I would say check out the Twitch page. You have to see what's coming up. A lot of the DAs are turning out some great stuff. Also, in the rare moment, I'm going to mention CDK here. If you're familiar with the CDK or would like to get familiar with CDK, CDK Day is coming up September 30th. And it's a 5-hour event. I will be hosting. Surprise, surprise. You might see a squirrel. You might see an otter. I don't know. There's some mascots definitely involved. So definitely check it out. With that, this is Sessions with Sam. Rob Sutter, I'm so glad you're back. Thank you so much. Everybody who watched and joined us, thank you for watching and joining. I hope this helped you understand the HTTP APIs integrations better. And so, you know, and if there's anything I can do to help clarify that, I'm glad to. Next week, we do return to config or to governance, right? So we're going to be using AWS config, and we're going to be talking about using AWS managed rules, how to build them in SAM, how to apply them. Thank you. Serverless for everyone. Stay healthy. Peace out. Have a good one.